Okay, if somebody tells you who you are and what to do, that's considered an abusive relationship.
That's so true.
So people come to the astrologer and they say, who am I? Tell me what to do.
Yes. They want another abusive relationship. They go to
the doctor, they say, what am I? What's wrong with me? Tell me what to do.
Yeah.
It's like everyone is saying, I want to be in an abusive relationship with my astrologer, with my priest, with my doctor, with my guru. When the only thing any of those people should be there is to show us things that our inner voice, our soul can say yes or no to.
Yes. A lot of people think astrology readings are like bubblegum readings or fortune cookie readings, and so they just ignore it. And then there's those that are so ardent to astrology that they end relationships and do all sorts of other stuff just because a reading said so, and that can be wrong too. So how do you, as an astrologer, guide people to how to find the middle path, or how do you use an astrology reading in a productive way so that you don't get fanatical about it nor ignore it?
I think the most important thing for the person is just to go to their astrologer and just show up without any intentions and realize that you're going there to get something that you don't really know what it is yet. The worst thing I think people can do to go to an astrologer is get a list of 20 questions and say, okay, I want to know these 20 things. And they approach it from this mental thing. I want to know this. That's all mental games. That's all ego bullshit, I won't even do readings for people who come with 20 questions.
Yeah.
Or 10 specific questions. I don't deal with that stuff. I say, when you want a reading with me, you just show up and we see what happens, and because you don't know. I had one girl, she came in, her parents had studied with me and they were really into astrology. They were talking about astrology at home all the time. She was like 17. They said, oh, you got to get a reading. Finally, she came in. I do this reading. I can't get anything from her chart. It's just like everything's flat. Everything's dead. I'm not making any progress. And I'm feeling, wow, I blew this reading for the girl. She drops me the check that her parents had written out for her. Then she gets up and she kind of like gets off the seat and then she drops back down and she goes, how accurate is any of this? That's when she finally got interested, right? And I said, for you, astrology is not accurate at all. Because see this thing you have in your 5th house? This means astrology won't work for you. It's not where you're going to get your guidance system. You'll get your guidance system from a completely different, you'll get guided, but not from astrology. She goes, I'm really glad to hear that because I've never been into astrology. My parents are so into it now. I feel like a weirdo living in my house. And because I just can't buy into it. I don't feel like it's right for me. And I'm so glad to hear that it's not right for me. And that made the reading for her,
I think that's a beautiful reading, though. I mean, how much more honest could you get?
Yeah.
How many astrologers would have been brave enough to say that?
Yeah, I have some astrologers that, ask me how to look for that kind of stuff. I have some students that when they see that in a person's chart, they won't read it. They just won't even try because every time they try, it turns into like it doesn't work. But sometimes that's what the person needs. So I think the most important thing is go to an astrologer because you want to, not because someone else says. Listen to your soul. If your soul says go, you go. If your soul says don't go. I've had people come who are forced into it or pressurized into it. It's never a good experience. No. It's not what's supposed to happen. They're supposed to get the information another way that day. So don't listen to your mind. Don't decide what you want from the reading. Show up with your emotions, show up with your problems, but drop the ideas. Mm-hmm. The worst thing you can do is go to an astrologer full of ideas, full of specifics. Just show up in the molten mass of pain or joy or whatever you are,
Yes.
and just let the reading happen.
I think,
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think part of the reason that's so important is because people are using astrologers like surrogate mothers and fathers instead of actually developing an intimate relationship with their soul or their inner self or their own inner guidance system. They're always going to someone else to try to solve their problems. And unfortunately, I think the whole education system we've set up worldwide, especially with the academic structure, is it's trained people like religions train people only to listen to priests and higher ups. Then we have only listened to the professors. So what happens is we've imprinted people with this model that you don't know anything compared to the guy that's got a bigger degree than you. So you shouldn't think for yourself because what do you know?
Yeah.
So I think we've our education system has actually railroaded people from developing an intimate level of trust and self-exploration and just the willingness to explore life without a fixed mindset about what's supposed to happen. I think it's
without that, our soul is out of the picture.
Yeah.
One of my students really said it best. Okay. She said, if somebody tells you who you are and what to do, that's considered an abusive relationship.
That's so true.
So people come to the astrologer and they say, "Who am I? Tell me what to do."
Yes. They want another abusive relationship.
They go to the doctor. They say, "What am I? What's wrong with me? Tell me what to do."
Yeah.
It's like everyone is saying, "I want to be in an abusive relationship with my astrologer, with my priest, with my doctor, with my guru." When the only thing any of those people should be there is to show us things that our inner voice, our soul can say yes or no to.
Yes.
Now, the way I've gone with astrology the last few years, back when you met me in the day, I was doing lots of predictions. I was predicting stuff to the day all the time. I never do that anymore. It's not worth my time and energy. It's hard friggin' work. I don't want to work that hard.
Yeah.
And that's one reason. Also, I rarely see predictions help people. What I'm doing now, and I'm mostly teaching it in course form, is I teach people the habits of the planet. To me, there's only good habits and bad habits. There's only one good habit, and the good habit is listening to your inner voice.
Yes.
Everything else is a bad habit in my book. Being nice is a bad habit. Being nice when your soul says be nice is a good habit. Be mean when your soul says be mean is a good habit, okay? So the way I say is the only good habit is listening to your inner voice of your soul, listening to your inner guidance system. Everything else is a bad habit. Then I look at the planets and I see the planets that are working psychologically in a way where they can hear their inner voice. And then I look at the planets that are working in a psychological way that they don't hear their inner voice. And I tell them about how that planet is sabotaging their ability to listen to their inner voice. I don't want anyone to follow anybody. I want people to listen to their inner voice because that's the only chance in hell we have for happiness.
Yes.
As you have discovered and mentioned,
Yeah.
Nothing else will work. And we were so full of shit telling us to not listen to the inner voice. Inner voice says, do this. You say, no fucking way, and ruin your life. And 20 years later, you got cancer,
Yes. And, the other thing about listening to your soul is it is not always easy. I'll give you a real simple example. Part of my meditation practice is I lift stones and I build sculptures out of stone, and it's very, very dangerous. I mean, I could send you some pictures, but like I build 17, 18 foot tall things with 300-pound stones in them. And I've been hurt very badly and almost died a few times because these things come down, and if you're not careful, you're dead. And I've bled like a son of a bitch and had knocked the shit out of myself, split my head open, smashed fingers, ripped feet, ankles, everything. And Penny's had to patch me up several times, but every single time something happened to me, it was because my ego got involved.
Mm-hmm.
But the point I'm driving at is I just go in there and go empty and say to my soul, okay, what do you want to do today? What do you want to create? And sometimes my soul will guide me to some big ass stone. I mean, this thing's like 300 plus pounds and it needs to go at the 4th level. I'm like, okay, how am I going to get that damn stone at chest height when I can barely fucking roll the damn thing? And I'll say to my soul, if I do that, I'm going to get hurt. You sure you want me to do that? And my soul says, yes. I said, how am I going to lift that stone that high? And my soul says, be creative. Who says you have to lift it that high? And so I then said to my soul, what am I going to do? And my soul says, how about putting a small stone on the ground and rolling it up on that, and then getting a bigger stone and rolling it up onto that, and build a set of stairs until it's right where you want it. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm so stupid. I should have just figured that out immediately with my mechanical mind. But the point I'm making is your soul can tell you to get into a relationship that scares you, to get out of one that makes you comfortable, to lift something that's too heavy for you. I mean, I've found working with your soul is it's definitely not for the lighthearted, because it'll push the barriers of your ego in every fucking way you can imagine.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's the adventure we're all craving to go on.
Absolutely, that's why I do it. and the further you go, the more I find, the more at peace I feel, because I know I don't have to try to solve the problems of my life with my head, or what most people would think of as alone. And when you realize that your soul is God experiencing itself as you, then you got the guidance of Source itself. Mm-hmm. So my next question I wanted to ask, there's lots of them, but here's a concept that I've had in my mind. I want to know if it's accurate. Would you think that if we said that the universe is to God like our body is to us, could the planets and the stars, particularly in this context in the constellations, be like organs within the body of God that ultimately affect us like organs? Because just like your liver can be the source of anger if it's backed up, or your kidneys fear, or your heart love and grief, it seems to me like it's almost like these are living organs, are not just bodies of balls of fire out there.
Yeah. So just as in Chinese medicine, the organs are related to different elements, right?
Yes.
And the planets are the 5 elements, not the sun and moon, but the other 5 visible planets, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, and Venus, and Saturn. Those are the 5 elements. So, we can look at all that with astrology, of course. So it's all part of astrology as well. It does work along those same lines of the 5 elements. And the 5 elements, each element creates 2 organs. That's why each planet rules 2 signs of the zodiac. One is the yin organ, one is the yang organ.
Okay.
So yeah, all those correlations are there, you bet.